Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing? Hope you are having an amazing day and not having to deal with drama. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one. And don't forget to listen to the end of the story, guys, to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. Hi, Reddit. I honestly don't know if I was out of line or just finally reached my breaking point. I, 54 female, attended my daughter's 24 female wedding last weekend. What was supposed to be one of the happiest days of our lives turned into the worst one, and I haven't slept well since. For context, let me tell you a bit about our family. We're not rich. My husband and I come from modest backgrounds. We've worked for everything we have. My husband, 57 male, is a mechanic and owns a small garage he's been running since his early 20s. I work as a secretary at a public school. We live in a small but well-maintained house in a rural town just outside of Chicago. It's nothing fancy, 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, but it's filled with memories and warmth. We never had much, but we've always prioritized our kids. We have 2 children, our son, 28 male, and our daughter, 24 female. Both of them were pushed to work hard in school because we knew we couldn't give them a trust fund, but we could give them an education. We skipped vacations, drove old cars, and saved religiously to put both of them through college without drowning them in loans. My daughter, Olivia, got a partial scholarship to a top private university and graduated with honors in economics. It was there that she met her now husband, Ryan, 26 male. Ryan is the only child of a very wealthy family from a high society suburb. His parents own a luxury real estate development firm and seem to float through life in tailored clothes and a sea of polite smiles. The kind of people who don't look at waiters when they hand them a menu. When Olivia first introduced Ryan to us, he was kind, polite, respectful. He seemed genuinely taken with her, and I could tell she was smitten. She brought him home for Thanksgiving during her junior year. While he was perfectly well-mannered, I noticed early on that he seemed slightly awkward around our way of life. He complimented our cute house and rustic decorations like we were a novelty. He clearly had never stepped foot in a working-class home before. Still, I gave him the benefit of the doubt. We've all had our bubbles burst in our 20s. Over the next couple of years, I noticed subtle shifts. Olivia stopped mentioning our family traditions. She didn't invite us to her graduation dinner, which Ryan's parents hosted at a swanky rooftop restaurant in the city. She said it was just a small affair with friends from campus. We didn't push back. I understood. She was in love, trying to blend 2 worlds. I figured she was just trying to fit in. Then they got engaged. Ryan proposed during a vacation in Italy. We found out on Instagram. I cried, not because I wasn't happy, but because I realized my baby girl had already started drifting away. I didn't even know they were going abroad. We got a formal announcement card 3 days later in the mail with a gold-embossed photo of them on a boat in Capri. I felt like a stranger in my own daughter's life. Still, we smiled. We congratulated them. We started helping with the wedding plans, even though I knew early on we wouldn't be able to contribute financially in the way Ryan's family could. And they made that very clear. His parents were footing the bill, every single detail. The venue, a luxury vineyard estate that cost more than our house is worth. The designer gown, the 10-piece live orchestra, the catered 5-course meal flown in by some Michelin-trained chef. I offered to cover the photographer. Ryan's mother laughed and said they had already secured someone more aligned with their aesthetic. I offered to help with favors. She said, "Don't worry, we have a planner for that." Every offer we made was turned down. With a smile, of course. Always a smile. But it was clear. This was their show, and we were lucky to be watching from the cheap seats. Still, I kept my mouth shut. For Olivia, for her happiness. Then came the wedding day. The ceremony was beautiful. I'll give them that. The vineyard estate looked like something out of a movie. Olivia looked radiant, like a princess, truly. I felt tears sting my eyes when I saw her walk down the aisle. My husband squeezed my hand, and I could see his lips tremble with pride. After the ceremony, we moved to the reception area. Candlelight, crystal glasses, pristine white flowers everywhere. I barely recognized anyone there. Most of the guests were from Ryan's family or business associates. Only 2 tables were for our side, and most were our family, and a couple of Olivia's childhood friends. About halfway through the evening, I excused myself to the restroom. On my way back, I passed a small sitting area behind the reception tent, partially obscured by hedges. That's when I heard it. Ryan's mother, speaking to another well-dressed older woman. I stopped when I heard my daughter's name. She said, "I still can't believe Ryan went through with this. He's always been so sentimental, bless him. But this girl, she's clearly marrying up. You can see it a mile away. Just look at her family. They're nice enough, but honestly, trashy. That mother's dress looked like something from a department store. And don't get me started on her father. What does he do again? Fix cars? It's embarrassing. Ryan could have had anyone, but he had to go and choose the first girl who looked at him like a meal ticket." I froze. I don't know how long I stood there, heart pounding, face hot with rage. I didn't say anything. I couldn't. My mouth was dry and my hands were trembling. I wanted to scream, to rip the diamond necklace off her neck and throw it into the vineyard. Instead, I walked back to my table. I sat quietly. I smiled as the waiters poured more wine. I let the speeches begin. I waited. Then, when it was my turn to give my toast, I stood. I hadn't planned to speak originally. The schedule was tight, and Ryan's parents had already monopolized the microphone with their heartfelt story about little Ryan and his first polo match. But I asked the MC politely, and he handed me the mic. I took a deep breath and smiled. I looked at Olivia and Ryan. I looked at my husband, and then I said, "I just want to say a few words as the mother of the bride." Today, I watched my daughter walk down the aisle looking like a vision, radiant, graceful, and kind. Olivia may have grown up in a small house with parents who didn't vacation in Europe or own yachts, but she grew up surrounded by love, hard work, and dignity. We didn't have much, but what we had, we gave her. We raised her to be kind, honest, loyal, and grounded. Traits that money cannot buy. I know there are some people here tonight who think she's a gold digger, someone marrying above her station from a so-called trashy family. But let me be clear, my daughter is not marrying up. She is marrying across, because no amount of wealth can equal the quality of her character. In fact, I'd argue she's too good for anyone who would judge her for where she comes from. Silence. You could hear a fork drop. I smiled, thanked everyone, and sat down. The rest of the night was chaos. Ryan's mother's face was like stone. His father whispered something to her and stormed off. Olivia stared at me like I'd slapped her across the face. My husband? Well, he looked proud, but he didn't say anything. When the reception ended, Olivia pulled me aside in the garden. She was livid. She said I humiliated her, that I turned her special day into a pity parade, that I made it all about me and my bruised ego. She asked me how I could do that after everything Ryan's family had done for us, that they paid for everything, and I had the nerve to throw it in their faces, that I embarrassed her in front of 200 people and ruined her wedding memories forever. She cried, screamed at me, said she could never forgive me unless I apologized publicly to Ryan's mother. I stood there, letting her vent. When she finished, I simply said, "Did you know she called us trashy? That she said you were only with Ryan for money?" She didn't say anything, just looked at me with glassy eyes and whispered, "You should have kept that to yourself." I haven't heard from her since. She and Ryan are on their honeymoon now, somewhere in Bali. I've texted her. She hasn't replied. My husband says I did the right thing. My son agrees. He said it's about time someone shut that snake woman up. But I feel sick inside. Maybe I should have said nothing. Maybe I should have smiled, swallowed the insult, and focused on my daughter's happiness. Maybe I shouldn't have spoken from the heart, but I couldn't let it slide. I couldn't sit there while that woman smiled to my face after dragging my family through the mud behind hedges like we were garbage. So Reddit, am I the a-hole for calling out my daughter's in-laws during my wedding toast after I overheard her mother-in-law calling her a gold digger and our family trashy? Yes, the a-hole. I get it. You were hurt, and what Ryan's mother said was appalling. But weddings are not the place to settle scores or drop passive-aggressive mic drop moments. That was your daughter's day, not yours. You humiliated her in front of 200 people because you couldn't hold your tongue for a few more hours. You could have confronted Ryan's mom privately, or better yet, told Olivia what you overheard in a respectful way. But instead, you made a toast that turned the spotlight onto you and painted your daughter as a victim, which she clearly didn't want. That's not protection. That's ego in disguise. Not the a-hole. You didn't ruin the wedding. Ryan's mother did the second she opened her mouth and insulted your daughter and your entire family. You didn't scream or cause a scene. You made a calm, dignified statement that stood up for your daughter and your values. If Olivia is more worried about pleasing that venomous woman than protecting the people who raised her, maybe she needs to reevaluate what kind of marriage she just walked into. You kept your cool and didn't name names. Honestly, your toast was more restrained than I could have managed in your shoes. Gold digger from a trashy family. That's some classist, elitist trash talk. And the worst part? Your daughter knew and still wanted you to stay silent. She's embarrassed by your toast, but not by what her mother-in-law said. That's telling. Not the a-hole. Soft. Yes, the a-hole. I understand your anger completely, and what Ryan's mom said was disgusting. But you dropped that bomb during the toast in front of everyone. You could have handled it after the event, in private. Your daughter probably feels like her one perfect day was hijacked, even if your reasons were valid. I'd apologize for the timing, not the content. I, 30 male, was 18 when my parents divorced. My dad was the one who filed, and he waited until I was of legal age so there wouldn't be any hassle over custody. My mom did not take the news well, and neither did my sister, Jane, 32 female. My dad told us that he understood if we were upset and could feel how we wanted to feel about this, but requested that we not take sides. I was mostly in shock, and when I asked my dad why, he simply explained he wasn't happy with my mom for years and wanted to find someone else. It was hard, not gonna lie, but I ultimately accepted it. I made no secret that I was definitely on the side of reconciliation, but wouldn't make an active attempt to do it. Jane did not take the same approach as I did, and yelled at my dad, asking him how he could destroy the family, and said that she would never forgive him for what he did. She even went so far as to agreeing to testify in court when our mom suspected our dad of cheating. He wasn't. And while it wouldn't technically be proven, I would have bet money that she helped mom steal stuff from dad. Basically, my dad had some golf clubs that he really cherished and moved them into his apartment before he filed to try and hang on to them. In order to get inside the complex, you needed a code, and the only ones who had it were him, me, Jane, and my uncle, just in case. While my dad was out, Jane went to his apartment, and on that same day they went missing, but magically resurfaced a year after the divorce was finalized when our mom was selling them online. True to her word, Jane never forgave Dad and didn't invite him to her wedding. I know that it really hurt my dad that she did that, and I was angry at her for it, and she responded, "I don't want someone who can't honor marriage at my wedding. It's bad luck." During virus, my dad got sick, but after a few weeks he recovered. Because he wasn't sure if he'd make it, he drafted a will where I basically got the lion's share of his assets, and Jane was to get the legal minimum amount so she couldn't challenge it. I'm not sure how, especially since Jane doesn't have regular contact with our dad, but she found out and was furious. She called me saying that this was Dad's way of trying to punish her for not being happy with him divorcing our mom, and demanding that I sign a document agreeing to share 50% of whatever I get. I was upset with my sister for violating our dad's privacy like that, and told her I wouldn't do it because it was her own fault for being a total brat to Dad. I haven't spoken to my dad about it, and kinda don't want to because I don't like the idea of him dying when he's healthy. So I don't know how true all of this is, but my mom and others are starting to hound me. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole, but you really should let your father know what's going on. He may want to talk to his lawyer and put other precautions in place. Not the a-hole. Do not undermine your father's will by signing away anything to your sister. If she has a problem with the distribution of his estate, she needs to take it up with him. You should warn him that someone is telling your sister these details, though. He should know that someone close to him cannot be trusted. Not the a-hole. Your sister is the biggest a-hole in history. It's always better for the parents to divorce than to live in a miserable relationship they're not happy with. She is for some reason thinking she is entitled to choose who the dad is in a relationship with. No, she's not. Especially now that you're over 30. And given you were over 18 when it happened, she should have been old enough to be able to get over it. Over the holidays, my mom started a conversation about death. She talked about how glad she was that I would be able to take care of my family after she was gone. She was more worried about both of my siblings and their families. As far as I know, she has some chronic illness, but is okay. The day before we left, my stepdad took me aside and scolded me for not volunteering to give up my portion of the inheritance. My stepdad and mom don't have any children of their own. They got married when all three of us were out of the house. He said it was unkind of me not to take the hint. He said she would probably just go ahead and make the decision anyway, but that it would be difficult for her without my blessing. I refused. The inheritance itself would be something like $200,000. I know she has a $500,000 life insurance policy. She also has a nest egg from the sale of her house when she moved in with my stepdad. The will is currently split evenly 3 ways. I'm the oldest, my brother is the middle child, while my sister is the youngest. I'm in my late 40s and a good bit older than them. We all have the same father, but they had me just out of high school. My mom didn't have much time for me because she worked full-time and went to school. By the time she was doing well financially, I was in college. She didn't help me financially. I got scholarships and took loans. My husband and I are upper middle class. We are both highly paid professionals with advanced degrees, but we have kids approaching college age and could use some cash to help pay for their education. My brother is doing fine. He had a kid out of wedlock when he was younger, but sorted his life out. He has a stable job, but money can be a bit tight because he's now married with 2 kids in addition to the earlier kid. My sister is a high-functioning disaster. She and her husband have 3 kids between them, and neither of them has a stable job. She's gone through multiple degree programs, dropping out each time. She flirts between side hustles, MLM stuff mostly. My mom has supported her all her life. She's also taken a lot of money from other family members. I end up paying a bill for her 2 or 3 times a year when she calls me out of nowhere to tell me the lights are going to be turned off if I don't send her $100. She lives well above her means. Recently, I lent her my credit card to get the groceries for a family holiday when we were all staying at Verbo, and she accidentally put some of her Christmas gifts on my card. She apologized when I said something and said she'd repay me, but of course she hasn't. I've always been the good kid, but I feel mom has never had as much time or support for me. I realize that circumstances were different, but it's tough for me not to see this as just one more time when I'm not a priority. If she wants to disinherit me, that's her choice. I just don't feel like I should have to make it emotionally easier for her. Not the a-hole. 1. Why is it your stepfather's business anyways? 2. If this is what she was implying, why bring it up at a family dinner? I would never have made the connection that that is what she was expecting me to do, even if I was willing to do it. 3. If she wants your permission or blessing, she can ask you like an adult and explain why she feels that way. If she doesn't feel comfortable doing that, she can just write her will how she wants. It's her will. She doesn't need anyone's blessing. This sucks. I'm so sorry. I'm the oldest of 6, and I'm the only one with their life together, and I feel every inch of this post. It completely sucks when your parents decide that you are also parent and not child, and that it's your duty, because you made some better choices than your siblings, to care for them. Translation: continue enabling them. What a reward for good behavior, right? It's all BS, and it says something that this isn't coming from your mom, but from your stepdad. Definitely don't make it easy on her. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. I think it's bizarre that your stepfather called you unkind for not taking the hint, that your mother wanted you to tell her to not include you in the will. I would never have jumped to the conclusion that he is saying you should have come to. On the other hand, it really comes off as classless to me when people rely on potential inheritances and act entitled to them. If your mom wants to disinherit you, she should. She shouldn't be asking your permission or blessing. But I'd be ducking annoyed if my loved ones were talking about my will while I'm still alive and kicking. So I, 19 female, have 2 half-sisters, Haley, 30 female, and Sarah, 32 female. Before my dad met my mom and had me, he was married to Mary, 60 female, and had Haley and Sarah. My dad wasn't happy in their marriage, and after around 15 years of being married, they filed for a divorce. 2 to 3 years later, my dad met my mom and they fell in love. My dad didn't want to start a relationship because he didn't want to hurt Haley's and Sarah's feelings, but eventually decided to have me with my mom, which didn't turn out to be a problem, since Haley and Sarah were ecstatic to hear they're getting a baby sister. They also never had a problem with my mom. They like her, and my mom is always there to help them when they need help. I saw them a lot growing up, and our relationship was pretty good. Sarah was especially fond of me, inviting me to her place a lot and doing a lot of fun stuff together like going to the movies, which is why I was devastated when she didn't invite me to her wedding. In 2018, my dad told me Sarah was getting married, and I was overjoyed. I know her fiancé, and he's really nice, and I was super excited to go dress shopping, since I thought I would be invited to. I wasn't, because Sarah's mom Mary never wanted to see me. She's basically been ignoring my existence ever since I was born. My dad and sisters always took care so that I wouldn't run into her when staying at Sarah's place, for example. Sarah never told me I wasn't invited to go dress shopping. I found out by Haley telling me what a nice dress they picked out. I was taken aback, but didn't think too much of it. My sister's wedding was in Italy, and when my dad booked the ticket to go, I realized I wasn't invited, since he only booked one ticket. My mom had warned me after they got engaged that I probably wouldn't be invited, and to not get my hopes up. But I didn't think Sarah actually wouldn't invite me because her mom can't cope that my dad moved on and had a child with another woman. What hurt most, though, is that Sarah never told me I wasn't invited. No text, letter, talk, nothing. She just moved on with her life like it never happened. She never tried to talk to me about it. When I saw her at family gatherings after, she only made small talk with me, as if nothing happened. Ever since then, I kind of detached myself from her and didn't go over to her place with my dad or anything. After a couple months, I completely stopped talking to her because I noticed that my mental health was suffering, and I decided to do what's best for myself, which is going no contact and avoiding her at family gatherings or not going altogether. It's been 4 years, and my dad asked me to maybe talk it out with her. He doesn't want to pressure me or anything, but he says that family is important, and he would like it if we would all get along. He also told me he never knew she never told me I wasn't invited, that she told him she had talked to me. He understands I'm upset, and he doesn't want to get involved. He just told me how he felt. She's also been trying to reach out to me a couple of months ago by asking my dad if he could ask me to have a talk with her, which is why he brought it up in the first place. Am I the a-hole for not wanting to talk to my sister since it's been so long? Should I just get over it? Edited to add. I didn't block her on my socials, so she could have reached out to me if she had wanted to. She still can. Her number isn't blocked. I only unfollowed her on IG. Edited to add. Maybe I should add this wasn't a one-time thing. Her son was born in 2016, and I wasn't invited for his birthday party in 2017 because her mom was there too. I just gave the present I got him to my dad, who gave it to Sarah at the party. She later called me and said thank you. I was a bit bummed out, but understood. Grandmother cancels out aunt. Also, because I saw a lot of comments speculating I might be an affair child, and that's why Mary is so offended by my existence. I'm not. Disregarding the fact that my dad would never cheat, and that my mom would never degrade herself to be a mistress. They met through mutual friends well after the divorce, and said friends are still in their life and have told me how they've met 100 times. Additionally, my dad did stand up for me to her. He criticized her not wanting to invite me, but it was her wedding and they have a weird relationship, in the sense that they argue a lot because they're both hot-headed and stubborn. It's complicated and a lot to get into. I hope I cleared some things up. Not the a-hole. It's been 4 years and she didn't reach out to explain or apologize. And now your father wants to sweep it under the rug and make it your responsibility for something that hurt you and you had no fault in? She knew what she was doing was hurting you because she didn't even have the courage to tell you in person that you weren't invited. Yeah, no. If it happened for the wedding, it's going to happen when she has children, and it might happen with your other sister as well. You don't owe her a talk. Your feelings are valid. If your father cared, he would have spoken to her back then. Not the a-hole. I hate it when people tell the wronged party to be the bigger person and accept crap because family. Where was family when you weren't invited to her wedding? Not the a-hole. If family is so important, why won't Sarah reach out to you first? It's been years. The way I see it is you're over it, but that doesn't necessarily mean that things will be back the way they were. Not the a-hole. I can understand completely why you'd be really hurt. Sadly, I can also understand why Sarah felt like she was backed into a corner, essentially having to choose between her mom and you. What I don't understand is why Sarah didn't reach out to you to discuss it. Even if she chose to not invite you to spare her mom's feelings, she should have talked to you about it if she wanted to maintain the relationship. At this point, It's less about what happened then, and more about what you want moving forward. Life is too short to hold grudges with people you care about. I can understand if you don't want her in your life, but you might want to consider being the bigger person and burying the hatchet. You might find, later on, that you'd regret it if you didn't. Update. Kind of. While this sub did deem me as to be not the a-hole, but was split on whether my sister, her mom, my dad, and all of them were the a-hole, I do feel kinda uneasy not talking to her at all, forever. She requested to follow me on Instagram a few days ago. I think this is a subtle way of telling me I care about what's going on in your life right now, but I might be wrong. Nevertheless, I let her follow request sit in my inbox for a while and thought about how I handled things moving forward. I also took into account a lot of advice you guys gave, even though a lot of you were split between cut her out of your life forever and maybe talk to her. I think I'm going to accept her request and see what happens. I think I'm ready to talk about what happened and how that made me feel, to explain why I was hurt not to be invited, and why I decided to go low contact, no contact. What I'm not sure about is if I'd accept an apology, if there even is one, or if I'm ready to start a relationship with her again. P.S. I forgot to mention, but my sister Haley got engaged a couple months back. They haven't set a date yet, but she mentioned to my dad wanting to invite me and even my mom. Let's see if she follows through. If so, I might have a new favorite sister. But I'm actually curious to see how this pans out. My daughter is 22. She's moved out to live with her boyfriend about 1.5 years ago and has taken the family cat with her. We have never discussed it. She just assumed she was bringing Buddy with her, and I didn't counter it, although I knew I was going to miss him like crazy. Me and my husband went to visit her a month ago, and I found she had given the cat away to a shelter because she and her boyfriend got a dog. She lied to us that Buddy must be adopted by now because she is not on the shelter site anymore. But the fact is that Buddy is 18 years old. He's an old cat. I was heartbroken. I contacted the shelter in question, but I got no information on him. My husband said he doubts she even took him there, and that Buddy was probably just tossed on the street. We had a huge fight, naturally. I screamed and my husband broke something. She yelled too, and eventually I told her she will never get a cent from us again. Not only will we stop paying the portion of her bills we've been paying, but husband and I also discussed not leaving her anything after we die. We've consulted a lawyer, and she could contest the will if we left it all to someone else. However, there are ways for us to leave the other person things, gift in layman's terms, while we are still alive. That way, once we both pass, our daughter cannot sue for our property and money because it wouldn't have been ours by then. It would all belong to the person of our choosing. Naturally, she has also called us names, said we were overreacting, that we care more about our cat than for her. So I'm asking if I'm the a-hole. I feel justified, but we did react hugely. I don't think she ever thought this was a possibility. Not the a-hole. I would never forgive someone, even if they were my own child, for giving away one of my pets. And an elderly pet, to a shelter. She knew perfectly well the poor thing didn't stand a chance. What kind of a monster would do something like that? She could have so easily returned the cat to you. At minimum, she lacks empathy, compassion, and common sense. Why would you want to associate with someone like that? Ugh, this post has made me so mad. She intentionally and cruelly mistreated a helpless animal. That's a complete deal breaker. Don't let people tell you she's owed forgiveness because of family. Sometimes people aren't worthy of being called family. And the people implying this was just a mistake or some foolish accident of youth. Your daughter is 22. I'd expect better from a 7-year-old. Don't leave her a single cent. Not the a-hole. It's your money and things, and you can bequeath it however you want. It's understandable if you don't trust her with your property when a mutual pet was so casually discarded. She could have respected your feelings here and asked if you would take the cat back. Not the a-hole at all, but you can leave everything to one person. Leave your daughter exactly $1. It shows that you did remember her, and that's her inheritance. You can also add a clause that if anyone fights the will, they forfeit everything. That would doubly safeguard your will.